Hello everyone, I hope you guys are okay within this difficult time that all actually humanity are facing. But I guess we have to do something about it. We have to start studying. We have to be able to live and forget. Okay. So I welcome you to today's chemistry lesson. I am Savannah. This is your chemistry lesson for grade 8, or let's say the second in the middle school. We're gonna start with chapter 1. Let's talk about the building blocks of the matter. What do I mean by that? What do I mean by the building blocks of the matter? What do you think is the building blocks of the matter? Now, as you can see, the building blocks of the matter is actually the atom. The air, water, and clouds, mountains, plants, and animal, and the human body, and the chair you sit on, the book with your hands, and everything you see and touch and feel, it's a matter. What do I mean by matter? Matter هي المادة. Matter is everything occupies space and has a mass. هي كل شيء حولنا يأخذ حيز من الفراغ وإلى وزن. The Greek philosopher of the earlier contributor to put a picture for constructions of matter. So أول واحد بدأ بتفسير المادة هما الجريك اليونانيين. Then came the Arabic scientist Jabir ibn Hayyan. بعدين إجا العالم العربي جابر ibn Hayyan, who have stated that the matter is composed of atoms. اللي اقترح إنه المادة مكونة من ذرات, such as the foundation stone of a building to build. مثل البناية اللي هي بداية البناء في البناية اللي هي حجر الأساس, stone to build. At the beginning of the 19th century, where Dalton put his idea of building materials في بداية القرن التاسع عشر, Dalton وضع فكرته عن building materials, saying that the atom is the smallest particle of material involved in chemical reaction. الذرة هي أصغر جزيئة في المادة تدخل في التفاعل الكيميائي. The atoms are very fine particles. It is impossible for a person to see, even with the most powerful microscope. حتى ويا يعني أقوى الميكروسكوب صعب إنه الواحد يشوف الآتم. And diameter of an atom is a millionth part to a millimeter. يعني شنو قصده؟ يعني إذا قسمنا المليمتر إلى million part, if you divide it into million part, okay, one part of that will be the atom. If I divide it into million part, one part of it is gonna be the atom. That's how small the atom it is. Then came the Italian scientist Avogadro. بعدين إجا العالم Avogadro and the latest development of the idea of Dalton building materials. إيش قال؟ شنو أحدث شيء طورها على فكرة دالتون؟ قال that saying that the smaller part in the matter can be found in private may consist of more than one atom called molecule. أفوغادرو هو اللي اقترح مصطلح المولكيول. شنو المولكيول؟ شنو الفكرة منه؟ إنه هو في شيء I can deal with, something a little bigger than atom that I can really deal with, and I can see it, and I can let's say act with it, okay, or let's say I can make reaction with it. It's not really big and it's not really that small. And if it contained from a similar atom, إذا المولكيول كان عبارة عن ذرات متشابهة, I call it element or عنصر. Either if it contained different atom, يعني إذا كانت بعدة أنواع من الatoms, it's gonna be called compound. What do I mean by that? I mean the difference between an element and compound. And you remember from your earliest study that the compound is like H2O. This is a compound, like O3. This is a compound, and for example, it's made from two different, as you can see, two different atoms. But for example, the O2, this is an element, okay? The H2 is an element, okay? Even the Ca is an element. Why? Because the first one is capitalized, يعني حرف كبير, and the next one is small, and the first one is capitalized, and the second one is a small letter, okay? So this one is an element, this one is an element, this one is an element, while this one is definitely a compound. This one has two is a compound because it's made from two different atoms, okay? Now going back to what we were studying, become the concept of the molecule as the smaller part of the matter hold the properties of substance. أصغر جزء من المادة اللي يحتوي على جزيئات or let's say خصائص substance المادة. Okay? Atom consists from the nucleus in their center. تذكرون العام كنا نرسم الأتم. We used to draw the atom. Okay? If you remember, if I want to draw an atom, how do I draw it? Something like this. Okay? It consists of inside something called nucleus. Within the nucleus I have P, which is positive, and N, which is surrounded by something called energy levels, which have the electron spin on it. Okay? Spin on it. So the nucleus is actually made from proton plus neutron. Okay? That's why the charge of the nucleus is positive. Why? Because the protons are positive while the neutrons are zero or neutral. That's why if someone asks you what is the charge of the nucleus, you immediately answer it's positive. Why? Because as I told you, this one is neutral, it doesn't have any sign, while the proton is actually positive. The atom itself is neutral. Why? Because the positive equals the negative. So the charge of the atom is actually neutral. Why? Because the protons are equal to the electron, while and at the same time simultaneously نفس الوقت الpositive يساوي النيجاتيف. So the nucleus of the atom mass approximately 99% of the mass of the atom, and this means that most of the atom almost concentrated in the nucleus. What is he trying to say by that? He's saying that within a gram, the weight for the atom is concentrated inside the nucleus. Why? He's saying 99.9% of the weight of the atom is concentrated inside the nucleus. Why? Because the protons and the neutrons are the heavy ones, okay? While the electrons is very, very, very light. Okay? That's why I don't count it when I'm talking. That's why I don't count it when I'm talking about the weight. I'm not talking about the charge, I'm talking about the weight. When I'm talking about the weight, you don't really talk about the electron. Actually, it's negligible. يعني مهم لك. ليش؟ لأنه وزنه جدا 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 قليل. Names and symbols of some elements. هاي أسماء بعض العناصر اللي جدا مهمة إنه تحفظوها لهذه السنة. ليش؟ لأن هذه راح نستخدمها بكثرة في الأسئلة في الامتحانات. طبعا معظم الأوقات يسألنا the name، يكتب لنا the name of the element، يكتب لنا اسم العنصر، وإحنا علينا إنه نعرف الرمز. مثلا الهيدروجين is H, helium is He, nitrogen is N, neon is Ne, and etc. As you will know from last year, you have to keep in your mind that when you write an element, the first letter has to be capital and the next one has to be small. Moving back to the structure of the atom. Atom consists of the following. شو داخل الأتم? The atom is actually consists of the nucleus. What do I mean by the nucleus? An atom is the smallest particle that can be obtained by chemical unit. One part of an atom is the central core, يعني الوسط مالت central core called the nucleus. Around the nucleus is sphere. خارج النيوكليوس أكو sphere or cloud of negative charge. سحابة إلكترونية من الشحنات الموجبة. Scientists have made some machines that can split atoms. أكو مكائن لها قابلية على فصل الأتم into even smaller particles. These particles cannot be studied by chemists. يعني ما درسوها هاي particles. Scientists have found more than 100 smaller or subatomic particles. داخل الأتم ينفصلوها قدروا يلقون 100 smaller subatomic particles. Chemists are usually concerned. الكيميائيين عادة مهتمين by 3 of these particles. 3 أجزاء of these particles. Electron, proton, and neutron. These are the most important things for the chemist. The nucleus contains 2 types of these subatomic particles. اثنين من هاي subatomic particle موجودة داخل النيوكليوس. شنو هاي subatomic? First one is the proton. Now one of the 2 kinds of subatomic particles that make the nucleus is the proton. And نريد أعرف البروتون. I want to define the proton. What do I say? The proton is one of the 2 kinds of subatomic particles that make up the nucleus. Is the proton and it's negatively charged. You have to say the charge of the of each subatomic. It's very, very important. And a proton has a mass more than 1,840 times larger than an electron. يعني 1840 مرة أكبر من الإلكترون كتلة. Yet, the proton still is very small. رغم أنه هو أكبر من الإلكترون. بكل هذا الشيء مع ذلك هو very small to consider. The mass of more than 6 multiplied by 10 to the power of 23 proton is about 1 gram. Protons are positively charged. The positive charge of 1 proton has the same as negative charge of the electron. الشحنة الموجبة للبروتون تساوي الشحنة السالبة للإلكترون. رغم أنهم مختلفين بالوزن إلا أن الشحنة مالتهم تكون متساوية. The same size. Another name of the number of protons contained in the nucleus of the atom called the atomic number. Not the number of a proton, we call it the atomic number, especially when we are dealing with the element in the periodic table. We always call it the atomic number. After that, I have something else found in the nucleus. I call it the neutrons. What are the neutrons? Another subatomic particle in the nucleus is the neutron. A neutron has about the same mass as the proton. يعني تقريبا نفس الكتلة. So neutrons like proton tend to make nucleus very heavy. النيوترونات والبروتونات يخلون الاتومز أو let's say the nucleus very heavy جدا ثقيلة. Neutron with proton in nucleus, they make up the most of the mass of the atom. As we said previously, we don't consider the electron. ما نعتبر الإلكترون. فقط نعتبر النيوترون والبروتون. As name suggested, neutron is natural. Neutron ما بيها شحنة. We call it neutral. it carries no electric charge. ما لها دخل نهائيا. Neutrons is symbolized with N. Mass number A is called the total number of protons and neutrons contained in the nucleus of an atom. Now mass number of proton plus number of neutron, symbolizing the mass number A and the number of a proton, which is the atomic number of the element. هذا القانون يوضح لنا كتلة النواة. شلون أحسب أني الكتلة عندي مال النواة؟ هي عبارة عن شنو؟ عبارة عن البروتون زائد النيوترون and supposedly the electron as well. This is the mass of the atom. Okay. But because the electrons are really small, I mean the protons and neutrons make up 99.9% of the atom. That's why the electrons are negligible. So I discard them. We call it in Arabic أهملها. Okay, I do not use it in my calculation. I only use proton and neutron to know the mass of the atom. Okay, so we indicate them like this: mass number equal number of proton plus the number of neutron. Okay, this is an example. If you know the atomic number of carbon is equal to 6. إذا عندنا عدد the atomic number of the carbon, the atomic number is the same as the proton, okay? And its mass number is 12. نعطينا عدد الكتلة تبعها, okay? إيش قد عدد النيوترون? Okay, simple mathematics. We deduct 6 from 12 ننقص 6 من 12 حتى نحصل على عدد النيوترونات الموجودة في ذرة الكربون. Now, as I told you guys, not always the neutrons are equal to the protons. Sometimes, yes, they are equal, but sometimes there is slightly different between them. Okay? Later, I'm going to go to something called the electrons, which is the third thing that is made from, make up the atom. ثالث شيء اللي هو يكون الذرة. The first part of an atom to be discovered was the electron. An electron has a negative charge. Its mass is almost zero. رغم انه هو شحنته جدا مؤثرة وسالبة، لكن الماس تبعه الكتلة تبعه almost zero. Okay. If electrons were put together, they would have a total mass of only about 1 gram. Okay. The negatively charged electrons are located outside the tiny heavy positive charge nucleus. يعني وين موجودة الإلكترونات؟ في الغلاف الخارجي للذرة. Okay. Electrons move around with nucleus at very high speed. الإلكترونات تفتر حول الذرة in very high speed, okay, بسرعة جدا عالية. Most of the space in atom is filled by negatively charged electrons. يعني داخل الذرة عندي نيوكليوس، لكن بالخارج معظمها متروس بالnegatively charged electrons. They spin around the atom. يفترون حول الذرة. Imagine an atom to be in the size of a large football. إذا تخيلت إنه الذرة بحجم ملعب كرة قدم. The nucleus would be the size of a pea in the size of the field. شكل النيوكليوس would be يعني السايز مالته الحجم مالته هيكون حجم البازلاء. Almost all the masses of the atom concentrated in the nucleus. كل الكتلة مال الآتم مركزة في هذه حبة البازلاء الموجودة في الملعب اللي نسميها النيوكليوس. Electrons in an atom are arranged in a different orbit called energy levels. الإلكترونات مرتبة في حول الذرة حول النيوكليوس في معظمها في different energy levels, okay, or shells you can say, okay. مستويات طاقة مختلفة حول النواة. Number of shells in an atom are shown by N, نطلق عليه letter N, small letter N. Volume of energy level change according to their distance to the nucleus and shells are centralized. يعني volume اللي هو الحجم of the energy levels لمستويات الطاقة يختلف according تبع بعدها عن النيوكليوس. Okay. The capital letters such as KLMN, okay, أو مثل ما نسميها احنا طلابنا كل من، حتى لا ينسون تركيبهم، كل من. Okay. Just like this, okay, they are orbiting around the nucleus, orbiting through them in this way. As you can see guys, first I start by drawing the nucleus, and then I go to the first energy level, I call it K, then I go to the next energy level, I call it L, and then I go to the next energy level, I call it M, then I go to the next energy level, I call it N. Okay, so K, L, N, and then the last one is N. So just like I told you guys, كل من فضلها بهذا الشكل so it can be easier. Okay. Now in an atom the negative and the positive charge are balanced. يعني شنو؟ في الذرة دائما عدد الإلكترونات يساوي عدد البروتونات. بهذا الشكل النيجاتيف تشارج اللي هي تبع الإلكترونات تساوي البوزيتيف تشارج للبروتونات. That's why the atom has no overall charge. يعني ما بها شحنة الآتم، دائما تكون natural. If it's not natural, that means it's not an atom. That means it's something else we will learn later. Now, Bohr theory, you're gonna be introduced with Bohr theory in more detail next year, actually. But it's involved on two factors: that the electrons, as you can see, are orbit around the nucleus. Okay, يفترون حول النيوكليوس. The energy of the orbit is related to its size. What does he mean by that? The lowest energy is found in the smallest orbital, which being the closest energy to our orbit. Why, guys? Do you know why? Because this one is the closest to the positive charge. Okay? As you can see, the protons are positively charged. Okay? This one is negatively charged. So there is a magnetic between these two, okay? But this one, it can be a little bit farther, so the magnetism is not really perfect. This one is even more farther, so he have more energy. يعني إلى طاقة أكثر إنه هو يتحرك. هذا أعلاهم طاقة. ليش؟ لأن هو أبعدهم عن النيوكليوس، أبعدهم عن الوسط. إذا هذا have the lowest. And this one have the highest. Why? Because he's the far away from the positively charged nucleus, or the proton. Okay? فكل ما نبتعد عن كل ما الانرجي ليفل مالتنا يعلى، كل ما نبتعد عن النواة كل ما يكون الانرجي ليفل تبعنا طاقته أعلى. Okay? The lowest energy is found in the smallest orbital. I call it K, which means the closest one energy level to the nucleus, N equal 1. Okay? Now, we're going to start today by the arrangement of electrons on their shell. How do I put them in arrangement into their shell? Okay?